Okay, we're live on YouTube. Let's see if the timer's working today. I don't know why it didn't work last week. Maybe there was a glitch with it.
David, can you put the Padlet instructions onto the Padlet, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, I will do.
Thanks.
Right. Are we all set?
Yeah.
Not quite, almost there.
David, why have I got your name in my diary for Monday afternoon?
I think we'll probably find out Monday afternoon. I'm not sure.
Oh, God. It's one of those, is it?
Right. Okay, I'm just going to get everybody in.
So you don't have anything in, presumably, David?
No.
Okay, I'll take it out.
Oh, dear.
That's made me very happy, though. I love it when things come out. I don't like it when they go in.
Right. Are we ready, Pi?
We are. Okay.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Teaching Live. It is week 6, and we are into our 3rd week already of writing our Brightstorm stories. So we've had some terrific stuff so far, really good stories being submitted, and some nice audio, people reading their stories and so on, and some fantastic contributions to the gallery, all very, very positive. So let's hope we carry on in the same vein. How are you this morning, Pi?
Well, I'm very well because I don't know why, because I'm in my leg, my hip rather, is now pretty much healed, John. And
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I can get around without a stick. So I've got a bit of new lease of life, I suppose. I'm not hobbling.
Spring chicken.
I am like a wily weasel.
You'll be out chasing rabbits around your garden in no time, Pi.
Absolutely. And the other big thing, John, is that I thought we'd do an anthology of the children's writing, and I know you've written to the teachers, so
Yes.
Please put aside any really great ones. I've got a lot of I'm so impressed with the writing. I mean, some of those dragon poems were superb.
Yes. So if we look at the homepage of the TeachingLive website, we've got the last anthology we did was called The Tick of Time, and you can go here and it's there for you to read, to download and read. It's quite extensive. There's 87 pages of it, and it was full of brilliant pieces of writing from earlier TeachingLive seasons. So we'd love to replicate that with a new season's worth, wouldn't we, Pi?
Absolutely. And I've saved some up from other seasons, if you see what I mean. But really, I want to feature great pieces of writing from this particular group. And I think probably if everybody each school submitted, say, 12 fantastic pieces, then that would give me more than enough to select from. It's hard to read absolutely everything, so I'd be sad if I missed a little gem, and the teachers know their children best. It looks as if we've only got 7 classes. Is that right, John?
We are down a couple. I think there's a couple of late half terms. This couple of schools on half term this week, which is a bit weird. But that would appear to be the case. So, yeah, so we're all set to go. And what's the game this morning?
Well, the game, I thought we'd do another storytelling game. This is one of my favorites. Some of you might have played this one before. And the basic idea is that David and I are going to make a story up together. I'll be making the story up. Partner A comes up with a sentence, an opening sentence. And then partner B, that well-known devil in disguise, David Mitchell, will provide me with a word that does not fit in with my story. And
I love this game.
Yeah, I've got a spare sentence.
I love it.
So I'll start us off, and then David will give me a sentence that doesn't work. So
a word or a sentence, Pi?
Sorry, a word that doesn't.
Word, okay.
I've got to use it. Okay, yep. So right. Once upon a time, there was a girl who lived on the edge of a deep, dark forest with her grandfather.
Central heating.
Every morning she would wake up during the winter and think to herself, Maya, I wish that we had central heating, for it is so cold.
Nice. Sausages.
She leapt out of bed and ran downstairs into the kitchen, where her grandfather, who she loved dearly, was cooking sausages, bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Tornado.
My dear, we must feed well this morning, for the news has it that there is a tornado heading towards the forest. You're making it too easy for me.
I am setting you up here for a big one.
Okay, go on then.
Hairdryer.
I haven't got time for tornadoes, for I must dry my hair before I can take on any such perilous disaster.
Jam.
Stuffing her face with a slice of toast smeared in jam, our young heroine headed upstairs, dried her hair, and peered out of the window where, in the distance, she could just make out, rushing across the valley, the shape of a dark, spinning tornado heading in their direction.
iPad.
Without even glancing at her iPad, she made her way downstairs, grabbed Grandad by the hands and said, "Quick, we must hide in the storm bunker."
Boris Johnson.
Unfortunately, when they opened the storm bunker, it was already full of a very large, hairy man whose name was Boris Johnson.
Limousine.
Well, I think everybody's probably got the idea. 2 minutes. The skill is to try and keep the story going, if you see what I mean. At 2 minutes, John, it's time to swap over so everybody gets a turn at playing both parts. But I think it's relatively straightforward. Lovely one to do. Great fun. And it's not easy, is it, David, to come up with a...
No, I mean, it depends how cruel you want to be. But I notice, I've obviously played this game a lot with you. You have a vast array of techniques that you use to get yourself out of tricky situations.
Without glancing at your iPad being one of them.
Yes, that was a real cheat,
Ignore the word that David gives completely and take the story your own direction. But that's a good technique, though.
Okay, so it's we need. Have we got a clock, John?
We have got a clock that for some reason, I don't know why it wasn't working online last week, but the timer is now working. So I've got the clock. And what I will do is at 2, so if you're in pairs, at 2 minutes, you can swap over. So the person inventing the story will become the person coming up with the words. So if you're coming up with the words first time round and you're particularly fiendish, your partner's going to have their chance to get revenge on you for their 2 minutes. So you can decide which way you want to take it. So 4 minutes on the clock, and we will start now. So that's 2 minutes up. So swap over. And that marks your 4 minutes up. So the game's over. Bring your attention back to the screen and we will go straight to the TeachingLive website. So if we go to the TeachingLive website, today's session page, you all know how to get there by now. And we will go straight into Padlet activity number 1.
Okay, we were looking at settings really last week, John,
Yep.
and we're going to have a bit of a focus on character and characterization. So how do you make your characters sound real in your story? Now, if we look at that first sentence, the girl went into the building. It's obviously very dull, very bland. We don't know anything about the girl. We don't know anything about the building. We know about name it. So instantly, if you're looking at a girl, okay, let's give her a name, Tulip. I don't know why I went for Tulip, but I called her Tulip. And it begins to create a bit of a sense of what a person might be like, depending on the name that you give. Tulip, instead of went, I've got dashed. Now, of course, that verb instantly makes the reader think, why is she dashing? Why is she in a hurry? Is she being chased? Is she late for something? And then instead of the building, I call it the Capitol Cinema. So I've named the type of building. So why is she dashing into this cinema? Now, if you look at the next one down, you've got Tulip slipped into the Capitol Cinema. So that's slightly different atmosphere. So why is she slipping in? Is it a bit dodgy? Perhaps she's not paid and she's trying to sneak in. So the verb begins to suggest quite a lot about their character and what they're up to. So you've got to have obviously got to name it, but you also got to have a well-chosen verb. And it's worth thinking about for character. Always think about, how is my character feeling, or what sort of character are they? You know, if Tulip happened to be a very pushy character, full of themselves, you might say Tulip barged into the Capitol Cinema. If you're a bit shy, you might slip into the Capitol Cinema. So the verb begins to suggest a lot about the sort of person you've got. Now, what you'll notice in that third one, John, is I've put a comma after cinema and I've added on knowing that the gang was close behind her. So I've revealed her thoughts. In her head, she's thinking, the gang's close behind me. So we've got name it, we've got the verb, and we've also got adding on what somebody is thinking or feeling. Now,
that gives her a reason for slipping into the Capitol Cinema, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. If you go to the next one, exactly the same procedure. The man went into the room. Okay, instantly we got what room? Well, I've got the professor's study. You'll notice in that, John, I've used an apostrophe because it's the study belonging to the professor. So we need an apostrophe there. Mr. Okra. So I don't know why I chose okra again. They're those sort of green things, aren't they, that people eat?
Yes, I never quite understand why people eat okra, because I don't particularly like them personally.
No, it's like aubergine.
I'm always disappointed with okra and aubergine. They look lovely and sound lovely, but when they appear in my curry, I'm always disappointed.
So I've got Mr. Okra barged in. So this is if you're barging in, it suggests somebody who's quite confident, probably in a bit of a hurry. Maybe there's something that really needs doing, so he's barging in. So that verb is suggesting a lot about how the character feels. Now, the third one, I've added on. I've not used knowing, I've used wondering. So you'll notice the comma again. So I've got Mr. Okra barged into the professor's study. So I've got a main character going into a place. John ran into, and then I need a place. John ran into his office, comma, and then I'm adding on knowing or wondering. Now I've got wondering where the map had been hidden. So there's obviously some sort of secret map. He's got to get hold of it. It's really important in the story. So that's why he's barging in, because he's really desperate to find this map. Now, I've given a box there of 5, 10 different possibilities to help everybody with the adding on after that comma. Thinking, wondering, hoping, wishing, expecting, regretting. That would be a good one. So Mr. Okra barged into the professor's study regretting. I mean, you have to come up with something that he might be regretting his violent assault on the cabbages, or whatever it's, whatever you're going to add on. So what we're going to need is a person going into somewhere. So you're going to have Mariana, that's the name of one of my characters. Mariana tiptoed into the captain's cabin. So main character going into a place, and name it, comma, and then one of those words from the boxes, hoping that she would find the silver sword of destiny. Ding, 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 ding. So it's quite simple, and I want everybody to stick to the pattern. Main character going into a place, comma, and then use one of those words from that box that says to help you. Knowing, sensing, feeling, dreaming, wishing, wondering, and add on an extra bit. I think it's straightforward as long as you stick to what I've asked you to do. If you invent something completely different, then you won't be practicing what we're trying to practice. So think about your character, think about how they're feeling, think about what they're thinking, and that will begin to build you a very nice sentence.
Oh, Padlet's changed. I'm just wondering which button I can click. No.
I freeze the Padlet, John, before so the children can't access it. So I'll just unfreeze it now. But yeah, just make sure it's all nice and tidy. There we go. It should be done now.
Oh yeah.
We're in business.
I'm worried there.
Now stick to the pattern and you'll be okay. And you can really use your imagination. In other words, try and see your main character from your story going into a place. And Beanie and Nia, the 10-year-old girl May, sprinted full speed to the car park, comma, hoping the cheap parking ticket wouldn't expire. Yep, perfect. Rhodey and Dougie. A bumblebee buzzed around the oak tree gardens looking for spare pollen in the tulips. Now, I'm not going to say anything, you two. Reread it. There's something you really desperately need to do. And in your next one, let's get a character. Let's get a person.
Yep, George, you've got a man went in a building. So the second part is great. The first part you need to work on. How did the man go in the building? What was the man's name? What was the building? Just remember some of the things that we just talked about. Have a go at editing that, George. See if you can improve that first part of your sentence. Jessica rushed into the unknown, not knowing it was a blank space. That's a kind of a bit of a cop out, and that's the sort of thing where you've not really spent enough time thinking about what it is we're wanting to do. So see if you can. You've got a great character's name. Rushed into where? Let's have a proper place, and what is she looking or hoping to find or do in that place? So have a go at editing that.
Sophia, Natty slipped round the tree, could name the tree, oak tree, hoping that she would find the key, the escape. So the second bit doesn't quite make sense, but you're onto a good idea there.
So make sure there's I'm noticing one or two without full stops as well. We're slipping with our details this morning.
Yeah, Bluebell, you need
Rhiannon and Bluebell, for example, you've got missed out full stops. Let's get the attention to detail.
We should all know how to edit these. So if you do spot one, just nip back and edit it and just add your full stop.
Yeah, Blessing, who's done some good writing, actually. I noticed the other day something that was good. Maria walked into the misty, eerie church, comma, knowing something would happen. Would happen.
And misty and eerie. Yeah, they're okay, I think. Aggie from Truro, Shona barged into the captain's office, comma, searching hurriedly for the shining gem. Well done.
Now,
I wonder if you could give your gem a name, because really famous gems usually have names, don't they? Like the Koh-i-Noor diamond or something like that.
yes, the Star of Uzbekistan.
Yes. Is
Lacey,
that a gem? One you've just made up, Pi?
I made it up, yeah. Some of the commas missing. Poppy dashed into school, comma, hoping not to be late. Can you go back and edit that, Lacey? Kai from Bolton Parish, Mr. Sweeney busted into the cafe shop shouting because they got his order wrong. Because they got, that doesn't sound quite right, because they had got his order wrong. And Audrey from THS, but well done, Kai, you're on it. Audrey, Mr. Brown needs a capital letter. Scurried into the secret room, comma, sensing the police were still after him. Not where, but were. So you've got to nip back and have a go at that. But Henry and Olivia, let's have a look at this. Miss Ginger stumbled into a pitch black room, feeling like there was no hope left. It should be feeling as if there was no hope left. Bella, Sasha sprinted to the train station, comma, hoping that she would catch it, full stop. So a little bit of rereading before you post. Emerald, so Hannah, Emerald sneaked into Raven's room, the room belonging to Raven, so you need Raven, apostrophe S, comma, wondering if she had any secrets. She saw a file, what she will do next. So that last bit doesn't, that it's not in standard English, well, it doesn't work. Wondering if she had any secrets, full stop. She noticed a file about what she would do next. Or she wondered what she would do next. That needs some attention, Hannah. You've got a nice idea on the go
there. Eden from THS, Truro. Ember crept into the abandoned cave, looking over her shoulder, letting the shivers climb her spine. Yep, like that. That's really good. 2 bits of information added. So you've got 2 clauses added there, and you've used the commas correctly.
Poppy, Ada ate breakfast, regretting ever going on the expedition. Ella, Tuesday tiptoed into the towering trees. Nice bit of alliteration there, as her brother followed her. Well done. Rocco, Jay quietly crept into the abandoned theme park. Full stop. It was so wet through there because there was a thunderstorm. Now, Rocco, if you put a comma after theme park, you could add on what he was thinking or feeling in the way that Anissa and Edith have done. Maria sprinted into the classroom, comma, wondering why it was so empty. Full stop you need. Then it hit her. It was a insect day, an insect day. I don't know what an insect day is. Inset.
Insect day.
That's an interesting one. Insect day.
That could well be, that could be a case of autocorrect there, Pi. Martha, Cara from THS, picking on THS this morning. Martha was creeping into her dad's study. Rather than was creeping, just crept. Just crept. Martha crept into her dad's study, wondering if he was hiding something from her and her family. Yeah, I like that one a lot. That's good, Cara.
Robert from Fingeen. Is that right, John?
Fingen.
Fingen. Matilda clenched the handle. forcing it to go forward, peered around the rusted room and slowly crept in, still knowing that the room was empty. That crept needs a bit of attention. It's PT. It's an odd one, that one.
Clover from John Moore, the girl whose name was Freya. Oops, it's just moved. David's just I've lost it. But what you could have done there, you didn't need to say the girl whose name was Freya. You could have just said Freya.
Kirsty from Mull. Caitlin flipped into the gymnastics hall, hoping to find her friends. That's followed the pattern really nicely. Well done.
Yeah. Catherine and Kai from Fingen. Felix barged through the crystal clear double doors, searching for his best friend, Chris. So you searching for his best friend. You need a comma there, don't you, Pi? Searching for his best friend, Chris, because it's additional information.
Yeah, I think so. How are we doing for time, John?
Yeah, we need to come out. I'm just going to just pull out one more. Tallulah. Rhea slipped into the murky forest with the hope of finding the pilot who had gone missing after the crash of the skyship. So you could have just simplified that, Tallulah, and just said Rhea slipped into the murky forest hoping to find the pilot who had gone missing. But that's perfectly fine. It works perfectly well. So we'll come out of the Padlet and we will go and have a look at the audio. So we'll go down to the blog challenge and go right the way to the bottom of the page to find the audio Padlet.
Now, I got a couple that I like, John. Luke, a shortish one, 48 seconds long, but I thought it was a nice, succinct piece of writing and it's well read.
So this is Luke from John Moore. I'll play that one.
In the heart of an unknown forest, a waterfall could be heard crashing down into the tranquil lake with all its strength. Above in the trees, Leah could see there was a spider carefully knitting its web. Gazing around, something caught Leah's eyes. The tallest tree in the forest attempting to reach for space like a rocket, or maybe even the sun. In the air, she could smell smoke from the wrecked skyfighter. Behind her, she could hear the crackle as the skyfighter's broken electronics. Around Leah's feet, the shimmering green grass stood strong like a soldier in the beaming sun. She could see a glimpse of the goldfish's golden scales in the calm, tranquil lake, which was full of all types of fish, carp, goldfish, and other unknown species.
Yeah, that's really good, Pi. I really like the detail in that setting description. When you're reading it out, Luke, you could slow down even more with that one. But it was really clearly read and a really nice setting description. Liked it a lot. Particularly the list of fish in the lake at the end there.
I like the bit about the spider weaving its web. I thought it was a nice little image, nice little idea there. And he's not done lots, but what he's done is really well attended to, really well crafted. Now, Freddie's is a bit longer, but a similar clarity in the reading.
So this is Freddie, also from John Moore.
On the peaks of the snow-capped mountains, lava spoke with anger in the deep crater of hell. Rock and ash was hurled into the air when it slowly met its death in the Arctic snow. One wrong step and the rock would crumble beneath your feet, and you would fall to a quick, painful death. The ship let out a grumble of spark and an electronic whir. The taste of ash filled the air with a dry, unbearable smell. Miles felt as if he if he took a step, he would fall. The voice in his head was taunting him, and it wouldn't stop. The siren-like noise repeated relentlessly. Miles could smell death in his presence. Rock crumbled off the crater walls and plunged into its fate. Snow rained from the sky, and half of the snowflakes melted immediately. The stars somehow took away some of the danger and worry, making the life-threatening volcano not as dangerous. The southern lights lit up the sky with a burst of colour and happiness.
Ooh, quite a contrast at the end there. I didn't expect that, the southern lights. I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming the southern lights are the southern equivalent. David will know this. See, the southern lights are the southern equivalent of the northern lights. Can you confirm or deny, David?
Oh, sorry. The southern, yes, they are. There's another name for them. Obviously, we've got the
Aurora. So we
Borealis.
have the Aurora Borealis. So I want you to tell me what the name of the southern lights is, David. So in a second. But I really like that. That was really good. It was a very doom-laden, dangerous setting that Freddie came up with there, wasn't it, Pi?
It was. Well, one of the things I loved about it was that he put so much expression into the reading. It was punchy because it was a very dangerous setting to have his character in, and it read aloud very, very well. It flowed along very nicely. So yeah, so JMPS getting in there with some really good writing, and there were other good ones. I went for a couple of lads this time because I've noticed quite often we have the girls reading out aloud. So I thought, okay, let's see if I can find a couple of lads to read this time. So well done, you two, and well done everybody else who posted.
So just to add, I've just got the name of the Southern Lights. It's called the Aurora Australis.
If I'd have thought long enough, I might have come up with that. But well done, thank you, David. And that, so you could add that to as a detail there, Freddie. You could, instead of calling it the Southern Lights, you could call it the Aurora Australis. It sounds really mysterious.
Yes, you could drop that in. The name known as.
Yeah,
it sounds like a really good name for a ship, a sky ship.
Yes, it does. Yes,
Aurora Australis. Yes, it does indeed. Right, Padlet activity number 2.
Well, sticking with our theme of looking at characters, we got some very juicy characters here. And again, you see, if you're going to build a character, you've got to think about what are they thinking, what are they feeling, but also what do they look like. Old people are always good to do, John. I suppose because they've lived a long time. If you scroll up to the man at the top, I mean, look at that face.
Yes, there's lots of lines on that one, and
definitely a teacher.
Yeah, it's a year 6 teacher, just after the SATs. Or it could be a year 6 pupil, just after the SATs. Oh dear. Okay, so I've got 2 old and 2 young. So if you scroll down, John, you've got the old lady, and then you've got the young girl. Both have got red hair, actually, the boy and the girl. So so the girl looked at the bird. We know about this bland sentence, so we need to name the main character. I've got Joe. How's she feeling? She's angry. So instead of look, she glared at and name the type of bird, owl. Now, what I've done is I then dropped in what's called a relative clause. Joe, whose hair sprouted in flaming curls. So I've dropped in description, glared at the owl. Now, you'll notice there are commas either side. When you drop in a who clause or a whose clause, when you drop it in, you need a comma either side. Joe, who had freckles scattered across her cheeks, or Joe, whose eyelashes were like. So it's either going to be who or whose. It's called a relative clause because it gives you information. It relates back to the subject of the sentence, which is Joe. That's who the sentence is about. Joe, whose hair sprouted in flaming curls, glared at the owl. So name your character, drop in physical description, and think how they feel. So you've got happy, brave, bold, bossy, scared, sad, lonely. So the name was Joe. The description was whose hair sprouted in flaming curls. And then I've suggested how she's feeling with that verb, glared at the owl. Now I've done another one. Mr. Majika, whose skin was wrinkled like a ploughed field. So I'm thinking of that old man at the top, sighed as the snow fell. So he's going, as the snow fell down.
So
the
used
sorry, John. Yeah.
simile there to describe the old man's skin.
Yes. So you need the name of a character. You need to think about what they're doing, a powerful verb, and then drop in the detail with the commas either side. And it'll either be who or whose. John, whose hair was turning grey, stroked his comma, stroked his hand. David, thank you very much.
Why do I know what's coming next?
People in glass houses, spy, should not cast the first stone.
Who had spent all morning polishing his skull. Okay. Well, don't write about somebody in your class that you know, because writing shouldn't really be used to take the mickey out of other people. So use one of these characters, give them a name, and then you're going to start your sentence with the name. So we're going to, that man, we could call him Mr. Jenkins. Now we're going to drop in some detail about Mr. Jenkins. Who or whose? So let's see what John does. Can he drop the detail in? So you've got to come up with a name, first of all. Martin, Martha, comma. Now he's going to drop the whose. Now you can use the photograph, whose hair fell across.
Fell across would be helpful.
It would, wouldn't it? Across. So concentrate on what John's doing. He's showing you what to do. So that's the detail. Whose hair fell across her shoulders like a waterfall. I'm wondering if he's going to get the comma in. He did. Now he's got to finish the sentence. Martha strode angrily into the, you've got to get a place, teacher's office. Does he get the full stop? Yes. And the only thing he really needs to do before he submits is get the U in shoulders.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Pike.
Martha, whose hair fell across her shoulders like a waterfall, strolled angrily into the teacher's office. And Ibrahim, Seth, whose clothes were very unique, stared at Roman in anger. So you followed the pattern really nicely. Well done with that one. And Erin and Darcy have gone for Tulip. So I need to get on and have a look myself. Tulip was one wandering the woods. Now you need to drop in a relative clause. Tulip, who or whose, and then drop in the relative clause. So copy my pattern and you'll be fine. Look at what Ibrahim's done. Brody and Doogie, David, whose skin felt like a porcupine, was the toughest man in the neighborhood at age 42. He had the body of a coconut on steroids.
Right, Sianan from Bolton Parish, just have a look at your sentence and change. I think you know what you've done. Just edit that so that it's it works. Matthew from Fingan, Arthur, whose hair shone as bright as a wildfire. I like that. Yep. Stared at the birds flying by. The only thing I would change there is the name. I wouldn't use name it for the birds. Stared at the geese flying by. Stared at the swallows flying by. You can do because if you can change the setting. The owls flying by, you think, well, he's in a forest. Or if it's you can by your choice of animal, you can change where people are.
Spot on, Alex, from JMPS. Joe, whose hand was clenched with anger, glared at the greying clouds. Touch of alliteration in that last bit. Well done, Alex. Fatima, let's have a look. Safina, whose eyes began to turn into a fiery red, was outraged of this terrible news. It should be with this terrible news. But you basically got the pattern, Fatima. Well done.
Hamad Connor, who had icy cold hair like that, and that's not a usual description of hair, but it works. Bit like mine. Glanced out of the window and glanced at the snow. I think you've used glance twice there. You could have just said glanced out of the window at the snow. Just to simplify it.
Now, George, you need to have a look at yours again and get those commas in around the relative clause.
Nia from THS. This is a good one, Pi. Bella, whose skin looked like a dishevelled prune. Sounds like me on a bad Monday morning. Whose skin looked like a dishevelled prune, stared at the shards of her smashed Chinese pottery. I really like that the use of the word shards. You haven't used pieces. Smashed, and it's not just ordinary pottery, it's Chinese pottery. That's really good. Well done, Nia.
Rossi and Leighton from Merton Bank. Harry, with his ocean blue eyes and porcelain skin, lovingly gazed at his elderly grandmother. So you just need a little tweak there. I love the ocean blue eyes and porcelain skin, though. Erin and Darcy. May, who has beautiful pastel pink hair, was running through the forest trying to get to her best friend Tulip. Now, that was running, you two. You could tighten it to May ran through the forest.
And you also need had, not has, in the first part, who had beautiful pastel pink hair, ran through the forest trying to get to her best friend Tulip.
Amelie from THS. Adeline, whose dress draped. I like that touch of alliteration. Dress draped, keeps moving around in wavelets, gaped at the sight of her brother stuck in the clutch of her foe.
Josh and Connor from St Mary's. Henry, whose face was covered in brown and light brown freckles. I think I might just choose one there. Light brown freckles, glared into the deep soul of his enemies. Now, you've put an apostrophe there. If you meant the deep soul of his enemies, plural, it would be IES. If it was enemies something, into his enemies' eyes, perhaps, you need to add the extra word.
So Lula, Millie, whose curls bounced like a bunny, stomped into the doctor's office. You need an apostrophe there, the office of the doctor, and demanded an appointment. You don't need 4, but basically you got it. Well done.
I like this one from Harry and Jake at Merton Bank. Muhammad, whose eyes told of many sorrows.
Oh, yes.
Struggled to hold back his tears. I think you got a bit carried away with your G's in struggled, boys, but I really like the whose eyes told of many sorrows, because it doesn't really describe the eyes, but it does at the same time. It's a really good one, that Harry and Jake.
Bella from Truro. Well done, Bella. Yep, that's I like the way you've named Flair's Lake.
Right, we'll come out of this Padlet because time is marching on.
We're getting there with that one, John.
That was better, more attention, fewer mistakes in that one.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is, John, people don't always follow the pattern they've been given. They try something else and then it falls apart.
Yes.
So
so we'll look at the gallery. Quick look at the gallery. What was the gallery challenge? Oh, was it your strange
my mountains? Look at Nula's
strange mountains that Nula has interpreted beautifully. Well, I really, well done. That's terrific, Nula. That's really good. I really like the colours in that, and you've interpreted Pi's weird instructions very well there.
Weird. I don't know what you're talking about, John. Have a look at Margot's the top one there from THS.
Ooh, that's interesting.
It is interesting. She's got flying trees. She got the sun, I think that must be at the top with its mouth open. A dust tornado. She's got some little devils.
I like the really detailed soil at the bottom. It's really odd, isn't it? It's interesting.
It's what you call a surreal picture, isn't it, John? Which means
Definitely.
beyond being real. It's playful. And nice bold patterns. So well done. That's a really interesting one. We've got there.
We've got
Lauren. What about Lauren's from Isle of Mull, from Dervaig?
Oh yeah, so she's gone for the much more realistic approach, and has gone for a kind of a skyscape with just an outline. I really like the use of shade in this. That's a terrific bit of work there.
Well, if you live on the Isle of Mull, that view is probably what you might see if you look out of your window.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well be, yes.
No. Actually, that's not the case, David. Because if you live on the Isle of Mull, and you look out the window, it's always raining.
That's mean. I've been to the Isle of Mull. I've been several times. I love it.
Yeah,
I've been to Dervaig, where the school is.
that is a bit. It doesn't always rain on the Isle of Mull, but it does rain quite often.
Fair enough. It does.
Yes. So I can remember spending a week in a tent on the Isle of Mull, hoping to go hill walking, and it just rained relentlessly. So
nowhere rains more than Chorley, though, John. So let's get that one.
That's true, but the Isle of Mull possibly being the only other place where it might rain as much. Right, we'll go to the session page, and we will have a look at this afternoon's. Oh, before we do that, we'll say what's the gallery challenge for next week?
Well, not surprisingly, if you go to page 2, go one up, John. And the thing about, because we're doing characters, it's either using a photo or sitting opposite each other and doing a sketch. And one of the things that you've really got to work at, and perhaps your teacher will help you, is actually sort of get the basic shape of the face, and then look at, okay, chin to nose, and trying to get things placed in the right place. So that takes quite a lot of time to get where the eyes go. And when I do it, I always would start with a dot. So I put a dot where the chin is, if you see what I mean. A little line for the mouth, very faint. Dot for the nose, 2 dots for the eyes, ears, around the head. Now, John, you've got a rug sitting on top of your head, so you'd have to get that in. So time spent really looking carefully and using your pencil to sort of work out the proportions is going to pay off in terms of making it look relatively realistic.
Quite often people put the eyes much too high on the head.
Yes, it looks weird then. So starting with a pencil sketch, John, you could leave it at that. But this is going into using pastels. If you use chalks, you've got the usual problem with chalks, and you in terms of you've got chalk dust everywhere, and it's easy to smudge things. One way around that is to keep blowing the chalk off, but also you might want to, when you finished it, cut the outline out and stick it onto something else, and ask your teacher, because there are some good sprays that the teacher can get that will fix it so you don't smudge it anymore. But there's a couple from class I taught years and years ago.
I like this one on the left there, Pi.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Got real expression in that character.
Yeah.
And I like the way the hair isn't just sort of plonked on her head. It's sort of part of the picture. That's good. Some really good detail.
They take a long time.
They do.
look at that check shirt. I mean, that took a long, long time to do.
Mm.
And
Got a sort of a touch of Van Gogh about that one.
yeah,
That's very good.
that little swirly background. So both of them thought about the background. You can see one's got a blurry background, blending colors in. The other's got that blue with those little swirls in the background. If you go up, I don't know what happened there. Oh, you just blended that in. I quite like that blending in of the blue pullover and then just not bothering with the rest of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's so portraits
Portrait.
with character.
Could just
Difficult. That would challenge me, Pi. I'm not the world's greatest drawer. I would definitely be challenged by that one, but we'll see what come out of that one.
It's all about practice, John, and looking carefully and just getting those proportions with tiny little dots and lines.
And this lot seem to be up for a challenge. So
absolutely, yes. Okay, chapter 3, new crew member. Now, what I'm trying to do here is make a contrast between my two characters, a contrast between Ty and Mariana. And I'm going to show that with some detail, but also how they behave. The characterization is basically done through thinking about how your character feels and then what do they do, as well as how do they behave. Also, the sorts of things they say can help. Let's have a look at it. Something was crawling up the side of the skyship's wooden hull. Ty, whose face paled, shrank back and ducked down behind the tiller, but Mariana rushed to the edge and peered into the gloom. She could just make out something or somebody scrabbling up the side of the ship. It was quite small and had green eyes. It paused and stared back up at her. "It's a baby dragon," she called, "and it's hurt." Mariana, whose brow frowned, "It is hurt?" I've missed the apostrophe out, haven't I? It is hurt. I want to bang my head on my desk 3 times. I know that. I reread it so many times. I'll carry on reading. "It's a baby dragon," she called, "and it's hurt." Mariana, whose brow frowned with concentration, reached down to grip its outstretched paw and pulled it onto the deck. "It must have got hurt in the storm." The dragonlet was shivering with cold and whimpering. Ty dashed off to fetch a ship's blanket, wondering anxiously if the dragonlet's mother would be pleased to know that they had helped her baby. Mariana spoke calmly to the baby, hoping that Captain O'Shea would not take a dim view of what they had done. So I think I've got a little bit of contrast in there. He's a bit shyer than she is. Ty, whose face pale, shrank back and ducked down, but Mariana rushed to the edge, so they both react in different ways. So trying to get a bit of a contrast in there. And we've got a baby dragon that they're going to look after. So in your one, we're looking for contrast in your 2 main characters. And then if you want, they can find some sort of creature. Could be a sky unicorn, use your imagination, and they're going to look after it. Now, you'll notice, John, I've not written a lot here because, believe it or not, to get the contrast took me a long time. So I really worked hard at the characterization. There are various repetitions in there that I noticed as I was reading it. I've repeated the word baby close together and the word hurt. I think it is, close together. So there's a couple of bits, and there's that it is hurt that I need to tighten up. And it's interesting, it's only when you read it aloud that you notice these things. So
we say that every week, don't we, Pi?
We do. It's so important to read what you've written to your partner and then look at it both together and do a bit of tidying up. It's a very powerful way of doing it. So we're not looking...
Do we call that, Pi, the reader's voice? Isn't it? Where I say to my children, read this in your reader's voice, and it's actually out loud.
Yeah. It's got to, what you've written has got to sound as if it came from a book. So it's not like everyday speech. I like that last line, hoping that Captain O'Shea would not take a dim view of what they had done. Because if you think about it, they've now got this baby dragon. They've sneaked on board a baby dragon or a unicorn or whatever you're going to have. And obviously the captain might not like that. And it might lead to trouble, because if the mother comes by, then they're going to be pretty angry and probably attack the ship. So you're sort of setting up a little bit of jeopardy. And it might be worth exploring what that word means. Jeopardy. Stories have to have jeopardy in them, or they're not terribly interesting.
Okay, so that's this week's challenge, to write to extend your story with a little bit of getting some character contrast, not through description, but what your characters are doing and saying, and act how they're acting. It's tricky. It's tricky, but I think we will probably all manage that quite successfully and without missing apostrophes. But
Thank you very much.
no, it just always makes my week pie, as you know. So when I spot something like that. So we will look forward to listening to your stories as well. Some really great stuff we heard from Luke, and I think, was it Freddie? Luke and Freddie earlier. That was a terrific bit of reading, and some really nice portrait pictures to display in the gallery as well, we hope. So we will see you next time for week 4 of the Brightstorm adventure. So bye-bye. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, great work. Well done, everyone.
Yeah, well done. See you next week.